All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Finance Junkies. We are here. Exciting day in the markets. Definitely another red day.
Share this. Just share it
in
off the bat. Let's just get this over with.
There we go, baby. There we go.
But before we get started, here's a question: where do you guys place your camera on your desktop? I know that sounds weird, but it's where do you guys place it? Yeah, where do you place your camera on your desktop? Like,
go wide. Let's talk about this.
No,
he's like,
I'm just curious because I got a new monitor from work, so like it's a giant 4-inch monitor, and so I'm like having trouble. Like, okay, where do I put this camera?
Well, I mean, I have a real camera right here. That's a real camera.
Okay,
so
I mean, Chris, you're looking over there. I feel like you need to do that. See what I'm saying? See, I'm looking at the camera like that,
like straight ahead.
Straight ahead, yeah, because you're always on a tilt.
I don't like the straight ahead
bottom. When you're on the bottom, then it works fine. But
yeah, I like this better actually. I like the tilt better. Yep. Okay.
During cowbell days, when we had videos, Amit would make me stare at the camera, and I'm actually a guy behind the camera, so looking at the camera is a little intimidating.
Like, Vitaly, you're in the film industry. Why can't you just look at the fucking camera?
But because I'm behind the camera, I'm the guy behind the camera filming the actors, so it's a different mentality.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so who bought today?
Chris?
Who went shopping?
I bought Google. I bought Amazon.
Okay.
Easy. Those are easy buys in my opinion. I also started looking at some large caps that make a lot of sense right now at current pricing that next year are probably going to end up doing well under a lower rate environment, which I think is like every day that I look at the data, I'm seeing the more likelihood that we're going to see massive amounts of disinflation happen.
We'll do a whole segment on that. We'll do a whole segment on that. Vitaly, what'd you buy?
So I'm buying. I don't know if I bought today. Actually, I might have bought for the kids, but I'm buying Solar Edge right now, sort of heavier than Enphase. So I'm not really buying a lot of Enphase. I feel like I have enough of that, but I keep saying take a look at Solar Edge. The P is now under 12. It's like 11 something. That company is being priced like they're not going to grow as soon as the rates come down, and they're still a growth company.
What is Enphase's PE right now? It's like 20.
That's 19. It's under 20 right now. I think it's 19 or 18. So that's coming down too. But literally, Solar Edge technically makes more money, but not better money because they don't have as good gross margins as Enphase, but they do make more in revenue. Okay, just revenue. And but having said that, they're now at they're going to be growing 20% plus, and that's minimum. And they're being priced at like 11 PE. Forward P, of course. I'm talking about that. And I don't think that's going to last. I think Solar Edge is going to return to growth. And in fact, I'm thinking Solar Edge is becoming a better buy than Enphase, dare I say it. So as it keeps tanking and it might be going down to $100, I'm just going to keep buying it. And I'm buying for the kids too. I've stopped buying Enphase for the kids now. Well, I've split it up. And I started buying them more Solar Edge as well, so that's where I'm at.
I bought a little SoFi today, and I did dip my toes in good old Palantir under 14 as well. Carlos, did you buy today?
Yeah.
You tweeted you bought Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, I started a $50 a day Bitcoin DCA that I'm gonna leave. I calculated it'd be about $1,500 a month, so I'm probably gonna do it till it pays for a whole coin. But if we see that red, I don't know, I guess that's called the Satan candle. If the God candle is like the big green one, then I'm waiting for the big red Satan candle that gets us down around 24. I'm thinking the longer this goes, actually, I'm hope we see 20 again, man. I just can't.
I mean, I'll just be telling you, not financialized for everybody else, but I think we're going under 20, man, and it's going to happen.
Dude, if we're there, I am.
Be careful buying too high right now.
I am there. Well, that's why I'm doing the $50 a day. I mean, that's how I got my Cardano position to where I wanted it, or my Doge position. I was just doing, I don't know, 10, 20 bucks a day. Just keep buying, just keep buying, just keep buying. I'm waiting for a pump on SoFi. I actually wanted to unload some of those call options that I have. I feel like
you have what, $10 calls on them?
Yeah, $10 calls. Yeah, I have a bunch, and I'm like, maybe I want to offload some of these because now we'll start getting into that theta decay, where like what good is the length of time left on the contract?
Didn't you take it for 2025?
And I took leaps like far out.
Yeah, 2025 probably.
Yeah, so there's no theta decay at that extreme
fine.
Yet.
I think you're fine.
No, not exactly, not yet. But I mean, I don't know. Like at the time that I bought them, or the time that we bought them, we kind of knew that they were going to beat that earnings. You kind of felt it even.
I
though
would wait until the next earnings before you sell. I mean, they're going to
That-
crush in November.
that's why
so
I'm
that's
that's
when
why
I
I'm
would.
holding on. I'm
Yeah, that's
holding
when I
on.
would sell.
think
I thought
that's
Q4 is
what
when they're going to
happened
be.
Yeah, they're
what
not
is
going
it,
to be
GAAP
profitable yet, but the student loan originations are this quarter, so they're going to probably raise guidance on EBITDA
Hoping.
and revenues.
Ooh, if they
But
raise guidance, yeah.
after that, they're going to
there.
tank.
I'm
After that.
hoping.
Okay, before we get into the LINA KHAN situation, which is the first topic of the pod, real quick, Vitaly, how are you buying stocks for the kids?
Oh, there's an account. So I didn't open up a 529 yet, although I am doing that, and maybe we should discuss that at a different episode. But apparently, the 529 rules have changed, where you can put it into a college fund, and if you don't use it for education, you can transfer it to their IRAs. But I'm not doing that yet. Fidelity has a child custody fund, okay, and so you can do that basically, make where you control it until they're around, I think 18 or whatever, and you can just do it that way.
Got it. Okay, perfect.
Is there limits on it?
There are no limits on this because it's not a tax deductible account. So
Hmm.
it's but I have to look into the 529. I'm not sure if the 529 has limits. It probably does.
Probably. I mean, when you say tax deductible, you mean it's not a tax exempt.
Tax exempt, right?
Well,
So
no,
this
no,
is
no. I'm
not.
saying, yeah. No, just wondering because, like, how does a kid have the ability to invest? But I remember when I first got my job when I was like 16, I wasn't allowed to open my own bank account, so my dad had to open a custodial account. I
Mhm.
still remember at North Fork Bank.
It's
if you
basically
guys
similar
remember.
to that. It's
Yeah,
very similar. Where
yeah,
I'm in charge,
yeah.
they have no control over it until they reach a certain
Yeah.
age.
Bro,
Yeah.
they will
Once I
definitely
turned,
thank you 10 years
Yeah.
from now for.
I mean, it's
fucking
kind of
doing
crazy how much I built up for them. I've been doing it for the last year and a half.
don't
I
tell
don't even.
them.
I can't
Don't
even
tell
tell
them
them that,
anything.
like, because I just keep doing it. Something dives. By the way, they
Yeah.
had Meta at like 100. So
that. Oh, so they're
Yeah.
sitting on gains in that account.
they're sitting
like-
actually on gains. Like they have better gains than me right now. It's kind of crazy. I
Wait, so
bought
when you
everything low
sell
for
in
them.
that
Google.
account, do those taxes happen when they're 18, or you have to?
So
pay
when
the
you
taxes?
sell, you do have to pay the taxes anyway. So right
Okay.
now I pay
Yeah.
taxes for the family. It's not like I still have to cover that because it's not a tax deferred account or anything. But I'm not doing any selling in that account. That account is meant for whatever I buy. They have to hold on to it for at least a decade. So nothing is
Gotcha.
being sold there.
Bring up John's comment. My grandpa invested $50 a month in an S&P fund for me until I was 18 at the 60 grand. I mean,
Wow, That's
it's
amazing.
unbelievable how fast that compounds. And
grows
that,
pretty
and depending
fast.
on what they invested in, that could have been even more
Yeah.
if it was like
And the
a
kids are
dividend
sitting on
stock.
massive gains. In fact, Enphase is their worst investment. These idiots.
They're gonna have a finance channel talking about how dumb their dad was.
Yeah.
My stupid dad made
They're
me
gonna be like,
invest in
I
this
bought Google and
solar
Meta.
company."
I did that.
Well, he told you to sell FUV in that video. I remember, so he was making decisions.
you know, they were right. They're usually more right than wrong because they go from their gut. It's all gut.
Well, you remember with Peter Lynch, right? Where he did that experiment where he just had like kids pick stocks and
Yep.
the kids actually
Didn't
outperformed
beat
most
them, yeah.
hedge fund managers, you know?
Yep.
It was a whole class because the whole class was able. They basically they covered some of the
Crowdsourced
blind
it.
spots. Yeah, they
Yeah.
crowdsourced it.
All right, let's move into topic of the day. FTC is officially suing Amazon for illegally maintaining monopoly power. They write on the official website, Amazon's ongoing pattern of illegal conduct blocks competition, allowing it to wield monopoly power to inflate prices, degrade quality, and stifle innovation for consumers and businesses. I put the title of this pod as LINA KHAN Hates 2-day shipping because for consumers and businesses, I think businesses get to ship their products in 2 days. Consumers get it in 2 days. Why do you think LINA KHAN and the FTC hate that from Amazon? Let's start with Vitaly, then we'll go to Chris. Go ahead.
So I'm writing a comment. Go to somebody
Okay,
else.
let's go to
first.
Chris, then Vitaly. Go ahead, Chris.
I think there's this notion of the rich versus the poor, and it's a political talking point because income inequality is so high. Amazon is one of the biggest beneficiaries of this income inequality thing, right? So if there's this feeling that because someone has got bigger, the reason why they're bigger is because they stole something from the little guy. And that could be the furthest thing from the truth, especially when it comes to Amazon, where they've actually changed e-commerce and retailing for an entire generation of people. So this whole movement towards, basically blaming these corporations for, becoming so big and so profitable, there's this thing where it's like, okay, we have to just, even based on like political dogma, have to go after them, and we have to look for a guilty party because there's this saying like no one can get rich without taking from somebody, and that's not how shit works. Like if you provide a service and a good that other people want, people are going to go with there. Like, can one of you guys here say that Amazon has done a shittier job than it did 5 years ago, you know, on any single thing? And I can't think of a single thing. And it's the same thing that they're using to go after things like Google, where they're like, oh, you know, Google has a monopoly over search. Yeah, because their other competitors just aren't doing a fucking good job. Like, I tried switching to Bing for a month. It was horrible.
I
tried using DuckDuckGo. It was horrible. Like, what do you want me to do? So as a consumer, Google's giving away its products for free. So how is that monopolistic power going to end up being challenged, like, in a certain way? So I think a lot of this stuff is just fucking performance theater to basically placate the bases that are saying, like, oh, you're Democrats, you're socialists, you're supposed to go after the rich because the rich are the problem. Like, look at fucking AOC when it came to, like, New York City, Long Island City. They could have built a headquarters here in Long Island City and brought hundreds of thousands of jobs to the city, but instead we had this
that was calculated at over a $2 billion loss.
Yeah,
for New York City.
No, the shit she said over the weekend was ridiculous on Meet the Press, where she was like, I bought a Tesla before COVID, and I'm going to give in my Tesla to now buy a union. Because they were like, why didn't you buy a GM EV or a Ford EV, right? Support the unions. And she's like, well, I'm going to trade in my Tesla. She's like, maybe, we'll see. And I wanted to punch my screen, bro. I was like, the amount of hypocrisy just eking off of her. It's like the elite just
but even the reason she gave, she said it was 2020. You couldn't travel very much. We were traveling back and forth between Boston and New York, and we calculated that the EV made the most sense. Well, there was other EVs available.
Of course, there were other EVs.
I just, but again, it's getting ridiculous now. Like we and I think I personally have tried to not be political and just try not to be political. Let's just talk about stock. But it's so hard when some of this stuff seems so blatantly obvious that, you know, what you think is obvious is not obvious to people. How can anyone take her seriously after making a comment like that and still support comments? I mean, even going back to the Amazon fiasco.
What do you think about LINA KHAN suing the?
I think this is a lot more like the attacks on Uber and Lyft, actually. Like how they were attacked for not treating their employees correctly. It's like no one's forcing you to drive an Uber, right? But now all of a sudden they got together and essentially wanted to be treated as employees and have 401ks and have healthcare and stuff like that. I have to do some more research on the FTC thing, but I think part of it is because of how they treated the workers, like some of the working conditions that were talked about in some of the factories.
They're
basically treated like human robots. You know that they were like told exact paths to walk. They were not allowed to use the bathroom. It was really,
well, there would be penalties if they did, and so
but really egregious.
But that's not under the FTC. That's labor. That's different. That's FTC. Yeah. What they were basically claiming, like one of the things that they were claiming that Amazon is doing is telling its sellers, like, hey, there's other products out there on other websites that's cheaper than what you're selling at. So if you don't lower the price, we're not going to put you at the top of the list. We're going to put you at the bottom of the list. So either you lower your price or we put you at the bottom, which is kind of stupid because that means it's good for the consumer because you're pressuring the business to lower its prices to get favorable rankings on the platform. I mean, no one wants to go to Amazon and pay an additional 5, 10, 20% when you could buy it from Walmart. So yeah, guess what? This is one of the things you have to do. If a competitor is selling it for cheaper and one of your sellers, your third-party sellers is on there selling it for a higher price, you should tell them. Say, look, either you want to be on the platform or we're going to rank you at the bottom. We're not saying we're going to kick you off, but at the end of the day, this benefits the consumer. So where the hell is the FTC, which is supposed to protect the consumer, getting to the point where it's like, oh, Amazon is causing problems. Like
the problem is, look, I think LINA KHAN is obviously she's working in the old system. And let's face it, Google, Amazon, Apple, these are monopolies. Okay. My whole thesis is invest in monopolies.
Are you buying them?
So that's my whole thesis. So, but having said that, I think the rules and just the antitrust rules are not meant to deal with the modern day monopoly. That's the problem. That the modern day monopoly is actually really good for the consumer. Okay. Because all of these companies are giving us all of this stuff, making our lives better. No one's arguing that Google actually made our lives better, richer. Okay. Gmail is free. We have photos we can store in the cloud for free. There's lots of things that are given to us. So besides the privacy thing, I don't want to get into that. But obviously, a lot of things are handed off.
That small instance.
Well, I'm saying if you were to just look at Standard Oil, which controlled all the distribution of actual how much they would charge, and they would collude with other players, Google doesn't need to collude. Okay, it's giving you Gmail for free, so you basically are forced into using it. So the monopoly rules are different, where they have to somehow change them, where LINA Khan might be able to do something. I don't think she has any power to do anything. And every 10 years, it seems like the government sues a big monopoly only to settle something and get nothing in return, really. So I think the same thing is going to happen here. Google and Amazon are just going to be sort of slapped on the wrist. The EU is doing the same thing. They're slapping them on the wrist and taking some sort of fines, but nothing intrinsically is changing in these companies. So I don't think it will. I think this will just blow over, and Google will continue to do what it's going to do, and Amazon will continue what it's going to do.
Can we 10th man, and can I put the question out there for everyone? Is there any case for Amazon truly being a monopoly? Or, I mean,
No,
like in a way that hurts a lot of businesses and stuff. Not
no. There's hundreds of thousands of businesses in retail right now. No, you can't say Amazon is a monopoly.
But if I want to sell something online, if I'm not on Amazon,
can you bring up the actual?
What about Shopify? You can't have your own Shopify shop. You can't have your own website. Does Amazon say you can't do that? You can't sell direct to the consumer. I mean, how many brands right now sell directly to the consumer and sell on Amazon as a platform?
Right, but people aren't using Amazon because it's the only place that they can sell. They're selling it there because of the access and the traffic that's driven to them. And so it's about access, right? It's about that level playing.
If you look at her complaint, by the way, why don't you bring it up? She's saying the actual sellers on the platform are the ones being screwed.
The sellers, the sellers.
Anti-discounting measures that punish sellers. And first of all, like, this is a stupid thing. This is Amazon's platform. The fact that they're even letting people sell products on it, that's totally up to their business if they want to do that.
That's a good point.
It's so weird to say that they can't allow certain sellers or block certain sellers. Like, it's like if someone walks into your store, you're allowed to kick that person out of your store, unless it's a racial thing, of course. But this is just a price thing. So I don't even know if she has legs to stand on here.
I mean, her argument is Amazon is so big. If you don't sell on Amazon, you can't have an online business. And I think to Chris's point, that's not true.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm in the market right now to try to get a GPU to actually maybe do some gaming, right? So I was looking at multiple websites. I can go to Newegg. I can do a custom PC build where I can actually order parts from a custom thing. I can go to OfferUp and buy things like, let's say users want to actually sell. I can go to Amazon, buy it from Amazon. So there are so many options that I have as a consumer. The one thing that I really love about Amazon is that Amazon customer fulfillment, which they guarantee the delivery of it. They take care of you. They issue a credit if it doesn't get delivered on time. I mean, this is the thing that's actually made the industry better. Like, who heard a two-day delivery before Amazon started doing it? Same day delivery. Now.
In fact, I did sign up because Best Buy got better. I don't know if you guys pay attention to this, but I signed up to that was like $40 or something. And they give you massive discounts because they're competing with Amazon on all these electronics. And so now, yes, we have more competition with Best Buy, who has to now compete with basically everything Amazon does. And even I paid for their year service.
Yeah. Walmart's doing the same thing. Walmart now has the same exact, like, a lot of their logistical footprint. I mean, dude, when an incumbent comes in and does something really good to transform the industry and raise the standard for everyone, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. The worst thing is if an incumbent comes in, destroys the competition, and then doesn't innovate at all and doesn't go on to the next level of making things better. That's where you have real monopolies. But right now, I don't see that happening. I see all the features, especially with Amazon, as here's the other thing. Amazon doesn't even make that much money on their fucking thing. Their operating margin on their e-commerce is like 4%. 4%.
That's part of the reason why they can crush some of their other competitors, because most of the money's coming from somewhere else. So
that's just capitalism at that point. Like, that's like Apple using music as a loss leader and putting Spotify out of business if that were to ever happen. Like, that's just tough competition.
Yeah. But that's part of what makes it difficult to compete with those companies. Whereas, like, it's same argument. This is a part of the bear case for Enphase, is that if Tesla wants to eat losses on solar, they don't give a shit. They'll just
but to me, that's business. That's not something to get sued over. That's like, yeah, you got to compete. It's fucking tough out there. But
no, I agree. I think my big problem with this is that it's virtue signaling. And notice how this stuff comes around before an election year. You notice how all of a sudden they all care about the voter. They care about the individual around an election year when they're looking to. They basically want you to take some of your money and donate to their campaigns. My big problem with that is, like, we've seen enough of this that you should be able to see this coming and have regulation before it happens. It's like we're trying to put the seatbelts on, trying to mandate seatbelts in cars after a bunch of people got slaughtered and you know and massacred in car accidents. It's like you would think if these vehicles are traveling at high speed, maybe we should mandate something to keep people safe. Same sort of deal with these like antitrust things. As you see these companies growing larger and larger, and you see even Walmart. Walmart had some pretty shitty business practices, man, where they would go into towns. I forgot the name of that book. There was a big book. There was a book that was written about this years ago, where they would go into a town essentially, and then put a massive store, hire a bunch of the workers, and then lower their prices below what the average mom and pop shops were charging. And then right when they got the mom and pop shops to go out of business, they would close the Walmart and leave for a few months. Now nobody had any jobs and there was no stores, and then they would come back, say a month or two later, and get all those people to come back to work at the company for even lower wages. And essentially, those people were paid so little at Walmart that their salary was offset by public assistance. And this was a big problem. I think they were sued over this thing. It's those sorts of business practices that companies like that can get away with. And I don't think it's fair to just say, well, that's just capitalism. That's just the way it works. Like people die from this stuff. You know, people lose their livelihood or people lose their businesses for it. But
I actually brought up, because you brought up virtue signaling. I was watching this.
Real quick, let me say two things beside that. I'm going to share this video. First, our good friend Steve of the pod, he's watching and he just texted us. Amazon is not a monopoly. Azure, Google Cloud, AWS competitors, retail, Walmart, Target, Costco, logistics, FedEx, UPS. So there's obviously a lot of competitors. So thank you to Steve for that information. And also, real quick, ChatGPT agrees. I said, hey, be honest, is Amazon a monopoly? She started giving me a paragraph. I said, no, don't give me the political nonsense. Just answer the question. She started giving me a paragraph. I said, I don't care. Is it a monopoly or not? And then she said, no. As of January 22, Amazon is not
officially classified as a monopoly. Okay.
So there we go. ChatGPT.
But technically
brought to you by Amazon,
right? Because ChatGPT said so. But technically, we didn't have a recession, even though we had two consecutive quarters with.
Every time she starts going on these paragraphs, I'm like, stop. Just give me the answer. I don't give a fuck. Tell me, and then she gets in line.
Stop being politically correct. Tell me the answer.
She's like, it's hard to answer. I'm like, I don't care. Give me the right. And then she's like, all right, I got it.
So I was watching this. And I don't understand why Biden did not give all these reporters mics. I mean, some good quality audio, but a couple of minutes is worth just watching this. And the UAW, maybe we should talk about this.
One thing is real simple, and it's very brief. The fact of the matter is that you guys, the UAW, you saved the automobile industry back in 2008 and before. Made a lot of sacrifices. You gave up a lot. And the company.
Yeah, you guys and the 800 billion
now they're doing incredibly well.
saved the auto industry
what?
back in 2008.
You should be doing incredibly well too.
He's like, you guys led. You guys.
The significant raise you need and other benefits.
Let's get it.
Get back who we lost, okay? It's about time for them to step up for us.
All those poor people are going to be unemployed.
Buying so many votes right now, bro.
They're all going to be so unemployed.
All right, so I just thought that was interesting. As the market bleeds, he goes on and basically
encourages them.
Elon said today
he's not working out. He's not working out like, hey, we should all sit down and make a deal because, you know, America could be in trouble. So let's all sit down and work this out where everybody that's really what the message should be, as opposed to you guys are doing the right job. You don't need to go back to work. We got to get you more money. So I understand that part too, but it should be both. It should be like,
but what he should be saying to them is that we should have this conversation while we continue to work and to grow. Like the American economy, one of the biggest industries is the auto industry, and the amount of money that they're losing could endanger even being able to employ you in the future. You got to understand, there was a comparison. I don't know. I think Farzad did it, a comparison between the average Chinese worker and the average American worker. They're doing at a Tesla factory in China, they're doing 65 hours and they have great compensation. And somebody actually broke down the compensation.
I don't know if we should be picking the Chinese as a model to follow.
What do you mean? They are the world's factory.
No,
I'm not saying that.
I agree with you there.
But that's
then they end up jumping off of bridges or off of buildings. So
all right, I mean, would you want to talk about Apple? We're talking about Tesla. I'm talking
no,
about
I didn't even mention Apple. Interesting, he brought it to.
Yeah, because that's where
I get that iPhone 16.
That's where they're putting nets outside the window to keep people.
Only two Chinese were lost from my iPhone. That's it.
They should put that on the back. They should engrave that.
There was a meme going around.
A meme about that. My point is that that's the difference between a culture that like wants to work and that it doesn't want to work, and it doesn't have to be 65 hours a week. I mean, look, I'm routinely putting in 70 hours a week, so like I feel like we we don't have that pride in
We don't have the work ethic as a country, you're saying.
work ethic. There is a certain amount of we prefer entitlements. There is an argument to be made. You got to get out and you got to go to work. Now, granted, some of that has to do with when you really care about the mission and care about the company you're working for, and you feel like they take care of you, and you feel like your work will translate into some sort of profit sharing on the back end. That's what could be worked out. But to think that it makes sense right now, when we're in the middle of this S-curve adaptation, and these companies really need to be smart financially as they transition away from a legacy financial or income stream to this new one, and they're already losing money, to think that you want to now work 32 hours a week on a 4-day work week, and that's what's going to, I just would insane explosion in their compensation. I don't see how this ends well for those companies. And you know what it is? I think ultimately they don't really care, like someone like Biden doesn't really care, because the taxpayer will have to bail them out, which I just don't see how this is going to end well for those companies, especially now. I don't see how this can end well, even more so than the writer's strike and the actor's strike. At least some of their demands, you could say, that's kind of founded. There is a certain amount of job security, but this really does feel like some sort of, I don't know, some sort of entitlement-based virtue signal at this point.
Well, no, the 40% we talked about, they didn't get a raise in, was it 5 years? Somebody mentioned that. So it amortized. It was 5% a year if you did the 40% raise now. So that, I thought that was fine. It was when they start like requesting other things that are silly, the 32-hour work week, whatever else.
That's ridiculous.
That's when it gets a little bit silly, considering I also work like 70-hour weeks, and so
routinely, and I have done this for 20
35
years.
hours.
I'm not saying, and I don't think you would like recommend it to people, but there is a certain work ethic that I feel like has been lost in the subsequent generations from Gen X, and I also don't see strategically how this ends well. I think this is just placating. Again, it's a moment that you can use in the campaign trail to say that I was there with you guys. But the union is being absolutely ridiculous right now at this point. Even though by and large I do agree with the ideas of unions.
Chris, your take.
So there's a couple of things. I think we as society, and especially as Americans, one of the reasons why we've done exceptionally well in terms of our GDP and our economy for like the last 100 years, even though we've had unionization. Unionization is not a new concept. It's been around since the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and on, right? The key element to unionization that I agree with, but then also ends up being bad, is that everything has to be done in moderation, right? Where if you ask for moderate pay increases with moderate benefit increases, they work out to be really beneficial, not just for the employees, but also the employers, because technically you want longevity of staff. You don't want people jumping in and out of this job. You don't want people to be like, not use this as a career. So right now, imagine right now the auto industry where people are just leaving all the time, and you're literally replacing people every single day because you're just looking for the lowest wage slave. Like, that's not how you were going to develop an industry. But at the same time, you also can't have it so that in a highly globalized world, you have to compete and you have to moderate some of those demands to the point where it actually makes sense for the companies to be profitable and fiscally sound. So we right now just have to remember that there has to be some level of moderation. There is one thing I just want to say about the American worker in terms of that. You guys think that, we as as workers are lazy. Believe it or not, I think that's one of the core strengths that we have, is that we essentially are lazy. And let me explain why. I know that sounds counterproductive, but counterintuitive, but
wait, I think I know where you're going. Is it because we're consumeristic, which means we'll keep buying shit, which will inflate the GDP because we're lazy?
No, it's because, and this is the same problem that I have at work, but it also ended up becoming something that ended up being one of my biggest. Okay, I was given a task in multiple jobs to do something in a certain way. Okay, my supervisor at the time said, this is how you're supposed to do this job, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you're supposed to do it in this order. No matter what you do it in this order. I said, okay, sure. I did it for about a week. I said, look, man, this is bullshit. I could probably do this with my hands tied behind my back if I just did it a little bit differently. Now, when I went to my supervisor, the guy initially said, what are you talking about? I've been doing this for 20 years. You should be doing it like this. And I said, no, let me just show you. And when I showed it to him, he got interested. He's like, oh, this is great. I need to start doing this, because if I had done this, I wouldn't have spent the last, you know,
20
20 years of my life doing this one repetitive task, right? So this is where American innovation really comes in, where if you have certain things, laziness can be one of those things that ends up pushing the envelope forward, where you're looking, and laziness can be equated to a lot more efficiency. So if you look at the average US worker in terms of like productivity, our productivity is like skyrocketed. You know, so if you go to China, you go to India, one of the things that they have over there, and the reason why they're not nearly as innovative, is because they will do your job. You give them a task, they will not deviate from that task. We as Americans, we have the freedom of thought. We actually think outside the box and say, why am I doing this? Why am I continuously doing this one process? How can I make it better for myself? How can I spend less time doing this, but doing the exact thing? So right now at work, even though I get paid 8 hours, my real job, I'm telling you guys.
Don't say it. Don't say it live. They'll catch you.
Don't do it.
I don't care. I'll say it. No. My boss. No. My boss
It's on the
knows.
internet.
Call from the FBI tomorrow.
No.
My boss.
We're saving
my
him
boss
right now.
knows. It's fine. No,
it's 15 hours. It's 15
I don't
hours.
care.
20
I'm
hours
saying,
a day, Chris.
No. But I'm saying my boss knows.
Okay.
I am an efficient worker. Okay.
Move on,
That
Jim.
is what makes me that I'm a highly efficient person. If you give me a task and you say, Chris, you're going to have to do this. Now I could do the long way or I could do it the easy way. I typically look for the easy way. Now, initially I'll tell my boss like, hey, I need some time to commit to making this process easier and simpler. But dude, it ends up benefiting everyone in the long run, you know? So I think this is where
laziness breeds innovation, essentially. That's
no, but what I think it's funny. You
free
use the word.
free thought breeds innovation, not necessarily laziness, because people are inherently lazy, but it's the ability to actually try new things, change things around, and having the freedom to do it. So these guys, hopefully, you know, I don't know. Go ahead, Carlos. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I was just saying it's interesting you use the word efficiency, because I think what you're doing is you're repackaging. It's like you're repackaging laziness to mean efficiency, but that's not what that is. Laziness, by definition, is wanting to cut corners. Yeah. Right? It's not trying to get the job done, or it's trying to get the job done to a minimum acceptable standard. That's laziness. Wanting to be efficient is very different. That's wanting to be more productive, and they're two different things. This idea of literally not wanting to work. They're not saying we're going to get the same amount done. Like, okay, a 4-day work week, this is how it would be more efficient. Instead of us working 8 hours a day for 5 days, why don't we work 10 hours a day for 4 days a week? This way, we're getting paid the same amount. We're still as productive, but we can actually save money by having one less day per week that we have to commute. This was the idea behind the 4-day work week in New York City, where they're saying, look at all the traffic that we have with people coming to work 5 days. If you can get rid of 1/5 of the cars every single day by having them work 10 hours when they're already in Manhattan, let them stay there the extra 2 hours per day and eliminate 1 day of travel. Ultimately, it was struck down, but that to me would make more sense if you really want to be efficient. If you look at the types of schedules, like I dated a nurse once, and you look at their schedules, they'll work 3 days a week or 4 days a week, 12-hour shifts. So they'll do 36 hours in 4 days, or sometimes 48 hours, and then they're off for 3 days. That to me makes more sense.
Does she look good in the scrubs?
Yeah. So to answer, I actually agree with Chris in terms of Americans have ingenuity. I don't think it's laziness. It's so we are allowed to figure things out in a lot of cases. Like, for example, Tesla's a perfect example. Even in China, Elon wants people to fail fast to rise. Okay. I don't do anything. If you go to these other car companies, what happens when you fail at BYD? Like, what is the outcome of that? Do you get a raise?
Probably not.
I wonder if people are fired from those positions at those in Chinese government and companies and actually promoted for trying new things. So I think that's a real key here, that America, we will try, we will fail, and then we will do it again and do it better. So that is the one thing we have.
Their culture dictates something along what's it? Raised nails get the hammer. So a lot of their cultural thinking is like that. So basically, the government comes and tells you, like, you are going to have an 8% a year in terms of GDP growth, and it's your job to figure out how to get to that 8%. So they'll do everything in their power to fake the numbers to get to where they are, instead of just saying, okay, let's not give ourselves this false bravado, and instead let's organically innovate ourselves to the next level. So I don't know. I think
speaking of which, the surprise hire of the year.
Yeah, I don't get this. Can someone explain why?
Did you see this? Okay,
no.
I wish them well.
As well.
All right, Corey Steuben was essentially Sandy Monroe's right-hand man over at Monroe and Associates. He was responsible for a lot of those videos that you would see where they would discuss vehicle teardowns. And if you know what Monroe and Associates do, is they basically tear a vehicle down into its literal component parts, and they're able to calculate what the cost of that vehicle actually was, and they're able to break down the exact manufacturing process. When they tear these vehicles down, they sell these reports, probably like $100,000 each. They sell these massive reports to other automakers. This is how they found out such granular detail about how Tesla makes their vehicles and what makes them so efficient. They're able to break it down and tell you the manufacturing process and the supply chain that's used. So for some reason, one day he just announced that he was leaving Monroe and Associates, and he was posting videos of him driving to his new job, and nobody knew where he was going. And today he posted this.
Hey everyone, the wait is over. Here I am, my first day of work at Lucid. I've been brought on board as the assistant chief engineer for midsize. It's a director level role. Really excited to support the team here for what's going on in the future. Stay tuned for more. Hey everyone, the wait is over.
So why is he going to Lucid?
I have no idea. I mean,
they must have given him.
He must not know they're going bankrupt.
That's literally what I wrote. I was like, did not see this one coming.
Lucid is not going
compensation package must have been.
Yeah, why are people saying Lucid? The Saudis are backing them. Well, they're not going bankrupt. I mean, I know they're struggling, but they're not.
No, they're losing, dude. If you look at them,
I don't know, dude. Even the Saudis don't want to keep losing money. So if no one's going to buy your vehicle at the end of the day, then why wouldn't they go bankrupt? Or Apple buys them. Still possible.
They're losing something like $200,000 per vehicle. Their vehicles are incredibly complex to make, and they lose a lot of money.
You don't think there's a bounce from $5 to 10? You don't think there's an easy double?
Oh, is that what he's there for?
I'm not interested in.
I'm not looking for some Lucid. What's going on?
I'm just not interested in. I'm not interested in risking it from $5 to 10 because I feel like it could.
AMIT is already looking at the calls. You can see he's a gambler.
He's gonna buy
that. Looks cheap, Chris. We got to
look at these spreads.
Wait, it is a $12 billion market cap. I know they only delivered like 7,000 cars last year or something, so that's definitely.
And they kept lowering guidance, by the way.
Yes,
so
and a lot of that 12
billion
billion is remnants of previous guidance where they were like, we'll have 50,000 vehicles. And actually a really, really negative thing was they stopped reporting on their earnings call the number of reservations. That was a huge red flag.
Do you think as the recession continues that they're going to sell more $150,000 cars or less?
No way. Are you kidding me? So
they think this guy can clean it up, basically.
I don't know.
No, he's
honestly,
good.
I don't think he can. I don't think he can.
Well, he can't fix it.
I don't think he can fix it. I think personally they made him a deal. He's got a great compensation package that I'm hoping is not all stock-based compensation.
Dude, Lucid,
I think he's going to honestly just make a lot of money before they go under. The other thing is that the guy Peter Rawlinson used to work at Tesla, so there's a bit of this competition and me trying to be better than my older brother. And Monroe and Associates really deep experience with Tesla, the manufacturing processes is the reason why I think he got that job. But he said mid-sized. So
there you go. Lucid is burning $1 billion of cash a quarter.
Just look up how much they lose per vehicle. Just like how much does
that moved away from me. Their total revenue is only $150 million a quarter.
Goodness, damn.
Think about that.
I mean, I don't know why you're not saying they're going bankrupt, Chris, but even their investor base would not want to keep losing money. They're going to just decide at some point it's not worth it.
So the reason why I say that, number one, they're being backed pretty heavily, but the other reason why is because this is how business actually ends up working out. So let's just look at Tesla, okay? Because I think Tesla is its main equivalent, right? So if you look at
not really,
no. Well, I mean,
Rivian would be a better comparison.
These are super high-end cars, not even competing with Tesla.
No. The reason why I say that is because when Tesla first came out with the Model S, it was losing a shit ton of money. Okay, Tesla, look at this. This is Tesla and what they were losing money. So when Tesla first came out in 2013, if you would have told me that Tesla is going to be the greatest, like in stock ever, everyone would have laughed at you in the face. Why? Because numbers right here.
Yeah,
so if you look at their operating income, just hold on. Operating income, negative 200 million. And you can see here, their losses just kept growing until they figured out their manufacturing to the point where in 2018, they lost almost $2.2 billion in operating income. It's not until they moved down market and actually made some key improvements in their manufacturing and scale that they started to actually generate an operating income. When it comes to businesses, this is typically what happens. You have revenue, and let's take a look at Lucid and Rivian. Because
before you leave that train
Yeah.
of thought, okay,
Yeah.
there's a difference. Tesla was one of the first ones making it, and they weren't losing per car; they were losing in terms of their whole manufacturing that was eating into that. These people are
it's-
losing per
yeah.
car massive amounts of money.
it's
Yes.
the same.
Hey, hold on,
thing.
and that
Yeah.
they were first there. They didn't have any competition. There was nobody else. It was Tesla against Tesla. That's who it was. They were competing against themselves.
Well,
So
but
this is a different situation now where they're not competing against themselves. Porsche Taycan is a good competition. I'd rather have a Porsche than have Porsche. I know they're going to be around. I'd rather pay the $150,000 a Porsche than to Lucid.
it also can't be it can't be stated enough that at the time that Tesla was making these vehicles, the supply chains were not established. I mean, they were looking for massive quantities of batteries at that time. There was a whole scandal back in the day that they were using repackaged, refurbished laptop batteries because they just couldn't get the supply chain.
But
So it's a very different environment now for manufacturing those vehicles than it was in 2012. You know,
but if you think
they're
about
awesome.
it,
They are awesome. Listen, they are fucking awesome. But here's
yeah,
the next
I'm just saying, if you think about it, the blueprint's already been laid out by Tesla. Okay. A lot of the battery manufacturing costs and everything else are a much better place right now than they were when Tesla first started making its EVs. Okay. The other thing is there's incentives behind a lot of the stuff that that's being done for EVs right now. Not to mention, you also have the back in the Saudis, just like Amit said, and you have capital that's actually coming into the company that's going to support you through your loss-making years. Same thing with Rivian. Rivian's in the same exact boat as these companies. So all I'm saying is I wouldn't say that you should completely throw these guys out and say, no, Tesla's going to be the de facto only EV manufacturer into the future.
The UAW is essentially securing that. Can you just bring up what I'm sharing right now?
Yeah.
I mean, dude, this is no joke. This year. They're losing half a million dollars.
Right. But what is this
on every vehicle, every single vehicle.
But Carlos, this is the exact problem that Jim Chanos used when it came to Tesla. When Tesla only made 1,000 cars and its operating expenses were negative 200 million, it was like, look,
Chanos is saying that. Chanos is saying that today.
Well, I'm just saying back then that was his argument. That's the same exact argument that's being made about Lucid. Lucid is only making 1,000 cars.
Again, to Vitaly's point, Tesla was not losing 4 times the vehicle's MSRP on each vehicle. A lot of the money was going into ramping up a factory in an industry that didn't exist. Do you understand?
But
they were carving out the niche at the time.
But this is what I'm saying. Look at that. Look, can you bring that article back up again? They only delivered 1,000 cars. Okay. In terms of manufacturing, the factory and all the logistics and hiring and everything else,
they can't produce them because their vehicles are ultimately too complex to make at scale. This is the problem that they're running into.
But this is what I'm trying to tell you right now. It just says right there. Lucid delivered 1,406 vehicles and reported a net loss of $780 million in the first quarter. You see, what all they did was just take that $780 million in net loss and just divided it up by the number of cars and then called it a day. Now, here's the thing. If let's say they lost the same amount, but they 5x the number of vehicles, they would lose less per vehicle. You see what I mean? This is just math mumbo jumbo.
Sure, but they're giving less guidance, so they're getting less reservations.
They're delivering less important to this conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, you buy all the spreads you want.
So let's read this. The Silicon Valley automaker is losing more than $4,000 on every Model S electric sedan it sells, using its reckoning of operating losses, and it burned $359 million in cash last quarter in a bull market for luxury vehicles. So, I mean, this is night and day comparison, and they were the only ones.
So once again, what year was this? Go ahead. Go check the
2018.
year.
I think 2018.
What year?
Right?
This is 2015.
Oh,
2015. Go to 2013 when they were making just the Roadster, only the Roadster.
Okay.
And they would have been losing. Yeah.
Wait, so Chris, would you buy Lucid right now or no?
No, I wouldn't. Because the future's the future's not
from the same article. As of February 21st, Lucid had 28,000 reservations, which was down from over 34,000 reservations as of November 7th. And Lucid did not provide an updated reservations figure in the recent earnings. With production below estimates and lack of clarity on reservations, investors could rationalize that demand is taking a hit. Lucid stated that seasonality is a factor, attributing its Q1 numbers to a slow January and changes in federal EV tax credits. Price cuts in Tesla have also stolen market share. So it's a number of things that are attacking this company. Their cars don't qualify for EV tax credits. The competitors' cars do, and the competitors are making money on those vehicles. I think it's over. You want to buy options? You want to play with this company? I would not fuck with this company.
All right, let's move on from Lucid because we got someone in the back. OG listener of the pod. He is here today, Mr. Futtbucker. What's up, man?
What's up?
Mr.
You almost
Futtbucker
never show your
himself.
face.
Mr. Workout himself, dude. What's
Oh,
going on,
20
bro?
miles, 6 minutes each. I don't know how the fuck you're doing this.
He burned more calories pushing the StreamYard button than all 4 of us burned in the fucking day. I just got an alert. It's like Futtbucker.
Can you move me
ass?
Yeah, I haven't been as hitting it as hard as I was, but
It's hard. The consistency.
Like, you see, you can hear him working out in his voice.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, you see that? Like, that doesn't sound like the man who doesn't work out. You know,
That's
All
what
right,
I
Bud,
wanted
how
to
many
shoot
cats did
laugh
you rescue
fun.
today?
no,
He's a firefighter, right?
yeah, no cats today. I have actually, well, I'll say retrieved, not rescued. Retrieved like 5 cats from trees.
There you
And,
go. There you go.
Actually brought one back to life. Or
Oh,
maybe,
wow.
Mouth to
yeah.
mouth?
Well, a little oxygen. Yeah, a little like chest,
That's awesome.
a little
That's pretty cool.
pump, and yeah, I thought the thing was gonna tear my face apart, but it actually just kind of like laid there. That was actually pretty cool.
Like,
But there were no cameras there to make me famous. So
make you viral.
yeah, right.
That definitely would have gone viral.
Yeah,
Do you-
now it is. Especially.
Fudd, do you have a question or can I ask you a question?
No, yeah, I just wanted to say, like the last, I guess 2 months ago, like, I mean, listen, I'm long-term investor, obviously, but I trade a lot. It's like you have to have different sects of, I have my section of investing and my section of trading, and I like to fund one with the other. So I'm always very shorter term duration. But like this is the pullback. Everyone's been, all I see is everyone like freaking out now, and I'm just like laughing. I'm like,
Well, so this is what I was going to ask you. And I think this goes into KRIS. He wanted to talk about the Big 7 versus the rest of the S&P. So let's kind of merge the discussion. Do you think we're headed for 420 on the S&P, a proper 10% correction? And do you think that's a sign of more trouble? Or look, we needed a correction. It's here. Big tech has run up too much, and we got to deal with it.
so no, I think so. Like, I guess. What was it? Well, Nvidia was probably like $80 ago. Everyone thought it was going to be 1,000, and
Correct.
everyone wanted to buy it. And
Correct.
now that it's
515.
420,
412.
now it's like 420, whatever. I'm like, no one wants to touch it. And I'm like,
That's the
you
market.
got to reverse that psychology. Like if you were happy to buy it at almost $500, you should be like, jumping through windows, excited that you're buying it for 420. Now, if you're and again, this is depending on your longer term outlook. If you're, like, oh, I'm going to buy and hold this for 20 years. I mean, then if it goes down to 250, then you better be even happier. Like you just have to be prepared to, handle those swings. And like I just any pullbacks and sell offs, different companies. I just try and remind everyone, like, don't be the person like putting every dime you have, hopefully not margin, but when Tesla was at 160, 150, and then they sold it at 120 because they were freaking out, because they over leveraged too early. Like you go into the clothing store to and your $110 jeans are $30, you should be happy. So
Unless you bought them yesterday.
You got to keep that outlook. I think this right now. This is the dip I'm waiting for. Now that we're about 1% from the 200-day for SPY.
Yeah. Yep.
In my longer, I'm right now with my TLT holdings. I stopped out of that like $7 ago. So now I just started buying TLT again. So adding bonds and
I'm sharing this. Take a look at this. I don't know if you do any
Yeah.
TA. Maybe you do.
oh yeah.
But we are basically in this channel and we're coming to the bottom of this, this channel. Who knows if we break down, but if we don't, then we are going back up. So
Yeah, like
we're
honestly,
getting close.
like, even also like long term. I don't know if do you have the 200-day weekly on that?
This is the monthly, but yeah, I can go to the weekly. There you go.
Yeah, Like,
So
if
the,
you
the
look
weekly is
see
right
how-
here at 380.
Correct. Which it's decent dollars amounts, but you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think we'll come anywhere near that, but that's the long term bullish uptrend, really.
I
That
want
we
to zoom
retested
out.
there. So
This is always-
and this is also like any stocks that you watch having the 200-day, the 200-week is it's a huge institutional level also.
So I'm just zooming out to show
Especially in-
people where
in
we have
crypto
been
too.
since 2008 at least.
Yeah.
Just basically boom, going straight up. So we haven't broken this at all. The bottom of this channel is 380, 355 or so. But still, we're still in this trend.
Yep. Yeah, and
been-
there's like where we held that bottom last was it October, I guess.
Yeah, there
Last
was
fall?
capitulation because in June 2022 we hit 3,600, and then in October we hit 34. So that was kind of a capitulation before the bounce.
The whole, if you pull up if you pull that up and you have the volume profile up on the side, that like right now, and I don't think unless it's like a major credit event or I mean, like right now you have like the talks of the government funding, which again, it coinciding seasonality with this time of year. And like this pullback, to me, it's kind of like perfect because I think in the next 2 or 3 days, we might get that like capitulation, like sick red day, and then I think we bounce from there.
So you're bullish. We're going up.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Until something, like cataclysmic happens, I personally think that it'll continue to be that. Now, overall valuation, yada yada, forward earnings, etc. It's still extremely frothy, but the party continues until the deck's
The
full of
music
water.
stops.
Yeah, that's
Until it's
exactly.
sinking.
When is the vote on that? When is the government supposed to technically
In like
shut
5
down?
days.
I think
5 days.
it's
All right,
really
so-
quick. I just saw something before that they
feel like
might
they came up
be
with
drawing
this
up a short-term resolution to push it back, like to avert the shutdown that's coming in the next few days until I think it was like mid-November. But even then, it'll be the same thing.
I think the inflation story, in my opinion, is starting to die. This last gasp of inflation that we just saw over the last 90 days was directly related to the price of oil spiking from 52-week lows to back to trading at the $90 level. And majority was that just on face value, thanks to the Russians and the Saudis for trying to, just moderate their production. The problem is, if you look at what the administration is doing with both Venezuela and with Iran, they're all already in the process of increasing production. So let me just share my screen. I brought it up today on Twitter, and you're also seeing higher production volumes coming from like US producers. Let me just put this up. So we're likely to see either the kneecapping of production, not production, sorry, of price increases going forward. So this is the U.S. total oil production going back to the last 5 years. You can see here at all-time pump levels of 2020, we were close to 13 million barrels. I think we actually hit 13 million barrels at one point per day of oil production. We're close to getting back to that level by the end of September. When new data comes out, more than likely it's going to be already there. If you look at the Iranians, they're doing the same thing. Iranian oil is starting to come back to the market. There's been loosening of regulations and sanctions from the administration here in the U.S. They just had that prisoner transfer deal, and also at the same time, there's actually some carve-outs with what they can export. And so right now the Chinese are just buying up as much Iranian oil as possible. Same thing with the Indians. And then last but not least, even Venezuela, which is right here, which has seen continuous corruption issues and everything else, their production is starting to kind of climb back up again. And it's the same thing. The U.S. policy towards Venezuela is starting to loosen and become a little bit more, it's getting better basically. So hopefully we see that this ends up translating into oil prices going into 2024. And once you combine that with a real estate market that's almost frozen at this point, depending on the value, depending on how you look at it, whether you look at the rent and rent owner's equivalent rent, which is pretty much flatlined year over year, and the price of homes is only about 3%, but that increase in home price is primarily driven by very, very low inventory and sales. We're looking at the beginning of a huge deflationary cycle. So with deflation usually comes recession, and then on top of it, rate cuts. So right now, the way I'm positioning myself is to benefit with a lot of medium cap and large cap companies that have been beaten down like crazy over the last 2 years, thanks to the higher rate environment in a very short period of time. And so my portfolio positioning is towards that. So I did fairly well on the REITs. There's actually a couple of preferred equity positions that I'm taking on as well, that I'll probably, just slowly ease into. But dude, right now in terms of risk to reward, the rewards have gone way beyond what the risk is. And
You think the fear and greed getting to extreme fear is
Extreme fear is when
an opportunity.
Extreme fear is when you really got to start going.
The other thing
we're-
is
we're in a good
fundamentals.
spot.
The other thing is fundamentals haven't gone negative. Fundamentals are still good for fundamentals are still good for most of the companies out there. Like you look at Google right now, they're just killing it in terms of AI cloud growth. Cloud adoption is on another level. So I think a lot of companies are right now, especially good companies, are being oversold. And that's the thing that I love about this market. When you guys were showing that entire map of red, that is where Mr. Market is drunk. When Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger and all these guys say, oh, you should be buying when the market is, Mr. Market is drunk. Yes, when Google, who's making billions upon billions of dollars, cutting operational expenses at the same time, and is generating more free cash flow than it ever did before, is trading lower, that should make you be like, yes, I'm getting Mr. Market is drunk. I'm going to start to take advantage of him, just like we did with Meta when it went down to the 80s last time. So I think right now is a good time to find these great companies who have businesses that have tremendous amount of moats around them. They're performing very well, and they have the ability to weather the recessionary storm without a hit to their fundamentals. So
all right, we got
now,
one more guest in the back, and then we'll end it up for the day. Seth, what's up?
Hi, I got 2 questions. Firstly,
what's up? New person finally. Thank goodness.
Lower
Wait,
your camera.
are you Seth E. Roth?
Prove that you have a body.
no,
Okay.
Prove that you're not a robot.
AI.
that's part of my question actually. Do you guys think that an AI could be a good trader on the stock market? And then
there's already services for that.
And then I second that with I know there's services for that, but if you could, if a brokerage could add that into their offerings, then I think that could be, that could mean a lot of things. If an AI was able to like 90% predict outsized returns. I want to get your guys' opinion on that. Like if you could literally just plug in, like, find me an option with a 10x return, and that's going to work 90% of the time. And just want to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, I think if the companies are already using similar things like that, and they're using it for themselves, even before they offer it to us as a service, they'll be using it for themselves. I've already seen ads for this where it's like, not to the extent that you're saying, like, hey, here's $1,000, turn it into 10,000 in a week, and just deposit it for me. But they're already using that. I mean, and even when we talk about like algorithms, when you see algorithmic trading, especially in like the penny stocks, a lot of that is all automated. So
I think
we're already seeing it.
I have a family member, I won't say who, but he actually algorithmically trades with a big company, and he wouldn't give me exact specific, but he says, look, on any given day, if we get 51% right, that's all we need. They don't need 90%. So it's about the tiny little margins over the 50%, getting more right and less wrong. That's all that it's about. And it's already happening with big Wall Street companies who have the infrastructure for it. I don't know if it's going to trickle down to us the way you're saying it, because maybe it will one day, because there's a lot of money that these people invest to keep their secrets.
Right.
They don't want anybody else to know that.
But also keep in mind, when you have enormous amounts of capital, a 5% return is huge for you. Because
5%, these are 1%. Well, I'm talking about 5% is almost impossible to
tiny percentages, right? So for us, we need outsized gains because the invested capital is so small, comparatively speaking.
Yeah, I just pictured it becoming a commodity essentially, and everybody has this AI trader on their phone that can get them any return they want. what would happen to the market at that point. But yeah, it's not available to the public, like you guys say. So
in the short term, these guys will pick up pennies. That's what their job is. Basically, it's to go around picking up as many pennies as they can. So the way that they typically work is in the short term, there's trading opportunities where there's a lot of arbitrage, where you'll actually see like someone is willing to sell something at $1 and another person is willing to buy something at $1.10. They'll be the ones that, buy the one for
Middlemen
$1 and sell
themselves.
it for a
Yeah.
10. And yeah, and so that whole thing now, that is how Citadel typically made their money, right? So there's already existing organizations and companies that do it. The key here is to find opportunities like that and move faster and faster than anyone else recognizes. So they compete against each other for that. Where we as long-term investors benefit is that we can do a lot of cross calculation and also adjust our thinking for the long term, where computers actually do a shitty job thinking long term. So if you've ever seen like someone like Magnus Carlsen when he was playing chess, the reason why he's one of the best people on the planet when it comes to playing chess is not because he knows what you're going to make as your next move. He knows what move you're going to make 10 moves from now, because he can analyze your playing style very quickly and efficiently understand what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and then base an entire strategy around that. So us as individuals, we still have the ability to beat the market because we can readjust our way of thinking and strategy faster. So in terms of beating the computer in the short term, good luck with that. You'll never be able to beat a high-speed trading computer at picking up arbitrage opportunities. Never. I don't think that that's possible. But in terms of long term, I think that's definitely a possibility. Like my correlation right now that I just made to the Iranian oil and Venezuelan oil situation where their production is climbing, right? So I made an assertion and I made a gamble saying, look, if oil production from those two areas comes into the market, that might end up helping lower inflation. If lower inflation comes, then the Fed will end up getting its recession that it wanted, and then if it gets its recession that they wanted, they'll start lowering interest rates, right? And if they start lowering interest rates, these companies are going to benefit. So I'm able to make that translation now. I don't know if computers can do that on a raw basis just yet, where they can project out in 5 years, this company is the one that you want to invest in, and these are the strategies that you want to use to maximize the return potential. So this is where humans will theoretically be able to beat long term. And believe it or not, this is not a new phenomenon. I think a lot of times we're looking at AI and saying this is a new thing, but you can see how much hallucinations happen. Otherwise, people just go to ChatGPT and say, what are the 5, or Bard right now, because Bard has real-time information, what are the 5 best companies to invest in for the long term, and then call it a day. And then if everyone started to do the same exact thing, that means that there's no real price discovery in the market, which means that you're not really doing. So this is where you have to be a little bit counterintuitive to the general market and swim against the current, because that's where the real opportunities really are.
Thank you. That makes me feel a little bit better, actually.
Seth, how old are you?
24.
How long have you been watching the pod?
About 3 months.
Okay, and how did you discover it? Was it like a Palantir thing, a Jeremy thing, or?
I think I came over from Tanner on
cool. Awesome.
watching some SoFi videos.
Okay.
Cool.
And are you in college? Would you want to?
No, I'm not in college, but I'm really enjoying all this financial talk.
Okay.
Yeah, loving
Awesome.
it.
All right, man. Thank you for joining. See you next time.
Thank you.
Wait, you had a second question.
Oh, it was tied in to that one. You guys hit it right on. Thank you.
Well, that's a perfect way. The one thing that I will leave us on, I'm doing some research, is we have 1 month until the 3 companies that are currently being struck report their earnings. So,
Oh wow. Okay.
GM goes on the 24th. So this is like literally the week before we go to Vegas.
They're gonna make more money. They saved all that money.
Over under.
Hey,
You think we get a deal by mid-October? I think we get a deal
No.
mid-October.
No,
I think we get a deal mid-October. I think they'll figure it out.
I think they'll at least wait for the earnings. 24th is GM, 25th is Ford, 27th is Stellantis. So I think we stay on strike at least until then.
You want to know something that pains me right now? If I was the CEO of GM or Ford, I'm already a multimillionaire. You know what I would do? I'm cutting my pay 90%. Go ahead, strike if you want. You know, what are you going to use now against me? But not a single one of those CEOs are cutting their compensation.
No, there's no way they're going to do this.
No.
You know,
It's not going to
No.
happen.
no,
Yeah,
no, I'm just saying.
You,
No,
you
no,
think
it can happen.
Mary Barra, who spent like 20 years at GM waiting for this moment to make millions of dollars a year, is going to cut her pay?
And she's making like
Mari
2
Barra
million
needs to
a month.
take after me. I was making 100% off Finance Junkies, and I cut my pay by 75% to make sure the workers would not revolt against me. Okay,
We're about to
I
strike.
made sure.
And his camera's off. This freaking.
Damn it died in the worst moment, bro. I was on a good monologue.
He,
All
he
right.
definitely
good
didn't
moment.
invest in a camera. You know, this is
Yeah,
the
good
problem.
moment,
He-
then it
You,
died.
He
the
took his money and
workers
bought
need-
spreads. He took his money on not a camera.
terrible CEO, terrible CEO.
All right, guys, I gotta go
You
jet
know
paint
what?
for the one.
75%.
All right.
All right, this is awesome.
see you later.
See you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Later.